So I wish Professor Ramki a very happy birthday and wishing him a very great year ahead. I also take this opportunity to thank the organizers, for the invitation to share some of my ideas here in the honor of celebrating Professor Ramki's birthday. The title of my talk is Generalization of Sophie-German Primes in the Direction of Primitive Roots. So we know Sophie-German prime was designed and thought about for a different direction. So I think we have an application of this in the direction of primitive roots. That's what I'm going to summarize it today. The overview of talk is I'll just start with the motivation of studying primitive roots and permutations or orbits of permutation rather because of Gauss. And then we share some of the questions that we addressed previously in the direction of Gauss. And then I'll talk about there are two things that we are going to talk about it here. One is we have an idea of, we call something as an extension of Sophie-German prime, and another thing is a generalization of Sophie-German prime. So I'll talk about that. And then if time permits, I will give an application of this computations in a real life problem solving. So I come from a theoretical computer science background. I'm a theoretical computer science guys who interested in exploring whether Z2 is the right algebraic structure for a computer, or is there any other better structure that one can think of. So in that perspective, there is a big data problem which reacts to this idea of Gauss and some of our ideas together, and then if time permits, I'll show you that. Okay, I have 2-3 slides to show just an application to motivate the study of such problems. Okay, so quickly some of the notations. Primitive roots should be familiar to all of us. We know Wilfrich primes. So maybe the important one that maybe thing is to, so when you have a permutation, sigma of Sn, if you go on to define an equivalence relation such that the equivalence relation of the domain, especially 1, 2, 3 x of dn, such that I is related to dn, I is related to j if there exists a case such that sigma k is 1. This congruence classes are called orbits of permutations, and we know when a sigma is said to be a cycle if one of the orbit has L elements, cycle of length L, if one of the orbits have L elements and the rest of it has one element. So Gauss has a very nice connection of primitive roots and permutations on representation of rationals. Okay, so that's why I'm just recalling this. And the cubic residues. So I think we may touch upon cubic residue also if time permits. Okay, so I'll start with the motivation here. So we all know about representation of rationals. So I'm just presenting the abstract n-ary representation here. We all know that, in simple sense, we know if you take this powers of 2, when you think about 1 by 2 power k, we know it's a terminating numbers. It will terminate after k digits in decimal expansion if you represent in decimal. Similarly for 1 by 5 power k, and for rest of the rational numbers which are not devices of 2 and 5, they are not going to have they are not going to be a finite finite series. They are going to be infinite series. We know that. For example, let's take a simplest example. As I said, we are more concerned about Z2 because Z2 is the algebraic structure that we have on a computer. So let's take 1 by 10, for example, for simplicity of understanding. If you represent 1 by 10 in a decimal number system, it's a terminating thing that's 0.1. Whereas if we go to Z2, we know that it is going to be 0, 0, 1, 1, 2 in binary representation. So the 0 is because of there's a 2, it's a divisor of 2, so that first is 0, and then it is going to be periodic, it is going to be an infinite series with periodicity 4. That in other words, I just represent by a bar that this 0, 0, 1 is going to occur infinitely many times. Gauss has studied this and observed that the periodicity is because of the thing that order of 2 in the multiplicative group modulo 5 is 4. In other words, 2 is a primitive root of 5. So equivalently, if you want to generalize this observation here, if you have any prime q which is co-prime to 2, and if you're looking at the periodicity of in binary representation, if you're looking at the periodicity of 1 over q, it is nothing but the order of 2 in q. This is because of Gauss, and therefore, if you want to have a maximal thing, then if you 2 happen to be a primitive root of q, then you will have the periodicity as maximal, which is equal to q minus 1. So the need is that in a computational perspective, the need is that we have seen many computations when you go to a machine to run. Many times we see that after some n, the machine terminates, and the machine, I mean, the program terminates or doesn't give an output. Okay, this is all because of because of lack of proper representation of this. Therefore, the one of the goals here is to understand, or characterize the primes for which 2 is a primitive root. Okay, in the perspective of purely computational, view. Of course, in algebraic view, we also want to know. We all know about infinite, and we all know about the conjectures by Gauss and Artin. Okay, so that's the thing. So then Gauss goes on to give this theorem. This is the most interesting theorem that we were more interested. That let P be any prime, and Gauss was talking about decimal expansion. Okay, so he's talking about 10 as a primitive root of P, and Gauss also assumes that if 10 is a primitive root of P, then the decimal representation of Q by P, where any Q is in ZP, will occur P minus 1 digits. That's the periodicity is P minus 1, because 10 is a primitive root. Therefore, the order of 10 in ZP will be P minus 1, and it differs by a cyclic permutation. So what does he mean by cyclic permutation is the thing that, so suppose let's take P equal to 17, okay, and therefore 10 is a primitive root of 17, we know that. Now, if I look at 1 by 17, since the periodicity will be 16, order of 10 will be 16 here, this is the number. So I just keep 2 dots to extreme to say that it's an infinite series which is going to occur again and again with this periodicity. Now, the next part of the Gauss theorem says that if it differs by cyclic permutation. In other words, if you take two other representations, for example, like we have represented here 1 by 17 to 16 by 17, okay, for all Q belonging to ZP, take ZP as 0 doesn't make any sense. So 1 to 16 we have here. So if you take any two representative, for example, if you take 1 by 17 and 3 by 17, you can easily see that it is just a cyclic permutation of the numbers, the 16 numbers here. So 1, 7, 6, 4, 7, and 0, 5, 2, and it comes in that order. Okay, sorry, in that order. So the advantage is that the advantage is if you have a primitive root, then not only you have an a priori information about the periodicity, but you also have the representation of the other rationals which are in for any Q in ZP. Okay, therefore this gives this is one of the things in theoretical computer science. This is called scalability of algorithms. If you are able to represent, if you do one and get more, it is called scalability in computer science. So that is the perspective. Therefore, this theorem emphasizes that there is a need to study primitive roots, permutations, and orbiter, and in fact orbiter permutations, to design an algorithm which is good at which works reasonably good for larger n. I mean, in other words, scalable algorithms. Okay, now I'll just touch upon some of the conjectures. Okay, this is the Gauss. Okay, we know the Gauss theorem that Gauss has proposed that when n is cyclic, if and only if n is of the form 2, 4 p power k and 2 p power k, and then there is a Gauss conjecture saying that 10 is a primitive root of infinitely many primes, and Artin generalize this conjecture to say that for any a which is 1 or minus 1 up of x square, a is a primitive root of infinitely many primes. Okay, so our aim was, in one side we wanted to characterize n for which 2 is a primitive root. So if this is done to some reasonable extent, then Z2 can be a good language for machines. In other words, that will be a good structure for computational things. That is our aim. Okay, so just to give a perspective of this conjectures, we have estimated for some of the primes, we have estimated the percentage of primes for which 2 is a primitive root. So this table shows you the bounds that we start with 10 power 1000 to 10 to the power 9. And we are just listing the number of primes up to this, for example, if 168 means there are 168 primes up to 1000, and percentage of primes for which 2 is a primitive root. Okay, so we observe that there are almost 37 around odd percentage of primes are having 2, 3, 5, and 10 as a primitive root. So just to take us for Gauss, and this is from Artin's perspective. Okay. So we have ignored 4 because 4 is a perfect square, and then 2, 3, 5 here. So you can see that 5 has a little more chance of proving the infinitude. Proving infinitude of 5. Proving infinitude of primes as with p as with 5 as a primitive root is less complex compared to this. That's what you could see here, because this is little over 2% compared to other spaces like 2 or 3 or 10 as a primitive root. Okay, so that's one thing that we observe, and it also tells you that it gives confidence to work on this, because it says almost 37% of the primes are having the primitive root, even for large n. Okay. And so when I also wanted to show some of the contributions that has happened before in this direction. So there was one study by Alcino and Gottfeld way back in 1969, and this was published in EMO, and where they have introduced a new notation called n factorial. So what they are doing is they're introducing, they're talking about cyclic group n, and then they're introducing a permutation called n factorial, which is nothing but just compose the n cycles and then form the permutation. Therefore, it's a product of 1, 2, 3, etc. up to n minus k, where k running from 0 to n minus 1. So that's the notation they're introducing. The motivation of this notation is not very clear, but it has a very close connections with the computational perspective. Okay, so that's why we took this as an example to study, and they also proved that further. They go on to prove that so transitive in the sense number of orbits is 1. If n factorial has 1 orbit, it is called a transitive permutation. So they characterize n factorial to have only one permutation if and only if 2n plus 1 is prime with 2 as a primitive root. That is their main theorem that is proved here. So to understand this in a simple way, that you can see that if you look at 5 factorial is this permutation, which is transitive. You can see that, and 2n plus 1 is 5 into 2 plus 1 is 11 is a prime, and 2 is a primitive root of that. Okay, and 2 is a primitive root of that. Okay, so that's the thing. It's published in AMM in 1969. Okay, that's a paper on the bottom. So with this background, I just wanted to get into this what is in our mind. So far you have seen that we have numerically bothered about the rational number 1 by 10. Not only we, even Gauss, we have bothered about rational representation of 1 by 10 in Z2. Okay, especially we are bothered about Z2, where Gauss was bothered about other primes, or algebraically Gauss was bothered about 1 by 2p. I just cunningly take 1 by 2p because it's just an extension of 10 can be written as 2 into p. So this 1 by 10, which is an infinite series in computer, okay, will lead to some kind of truncation at some point of time, and then is how to optimize the truncation and reduce the scalability of the algorithm, or reduce the or promote the algorithm to work for scalability, in the sense promote the algorithm to work for larger n. That is the question that we are trying to understand this. In other words, you can also algebraically look at this 1 by p power l or 1 by 2 p power l because of Gauss. Okay, prime power. So we are also more and more focusing our effort towards characterizing 2 as a primitive root for p power l, so that once we know, so that the harmonics can be better represented in terms of this. I also write this harmonic series here because when it comes to scientific computing, this guy is the main guy, which is asymptotic to log, and if you sum over only the prime harmonics, it's asymptotic to log of log, which takes care of most of the arithmetic functions to capture the challenges that we have in computational domain. So I also talk about it. Therefore, in other sense, we wanted to look at primitive roots and permutations to have a better computing of this harmonic series. And we know harmonic series is very slowly diverging series. We all know that. So in some sense, it's a conversion between Z10 and multiplicative group modulo 10 and multiplicative group modulo 2. Okay, so that's the thing. So what we did, we started with, okay, I'll just skip that slide. We started with some work here. As I said, we were more interested in calculating a primitive root of higher dimension from a lower dimension. In other sense, if we know a primitive root of p, can we say a primitive root of p square and all that? And therefore, we used the first thing that this is a joint work with Tanga and one of my PhD student, Dakshayani. This was published in 2018. 2017, we did this work. It was published a little later. Here, what we have proved here is for any R prime p, we found that 50% of the primitive roots of p are also primitive roots of p power l for any l greater than 2. So Gauss was more bothered about representing the primitive roots of in, when I say higher dimension, I mean p power l or p square, p cube, and all that. Gauss was more or less using functions which are dependent on L. So we just asked whether how many primitive roots of P will be primitive root of P square, and then we were able to prove this. And we also have conjectured that 75% of the primitive roots are also primitive root of P power N. Okay, and this is the first thing that we asked. So if you see this, the same question, we are trying to characterize from a primitive root of P to P square. In other sense, once I have a harmonic representation, once I have the representation of the harmonic 1 by P, it is easy for me to represent 1 by P power L. So that is the thing, do that. Another thing that we all know about this Wilfridge prime, very advantageously, this Wilfridge prime being a non-Wilfridge prime is a necessary condition for a prime to be a primitive root So if you have, so let's see, take this quickly. This one, let G be any primitive root. Okay, not this one. Okay, let G is if G is a primitive root of P square, then P has to be, then P is a non-Wilfridge prime of base G. Okay, that's very easy to characterize that, because you don't want G to the power P minus 1 to be congruent to 1 mod P square. If that is the case, then G is not a primitive root of P square, and that's the thing. Therefore, being a Wilfridge prime is a non-Wilfridge prime is a necessary condition for P to be a primitive root, for G to be a primitive root of P. So very interestingly, if you look at the prime grid project, they were able to find only 2 Wilfridge prime of base 2. For in some sense, we have our expectation of Z2 being a very good algebraic structure for computer is becoming more and more evident from this. Okay, that's one of the very good observation that so far people have computed up to. They were able to estimate only up to 10 to the power 16. They were able to find only 2 primes. I think they are 1093 and 351. Okay, I'll just skip this and. Okay, so this is the motivation that this is the motivation that we had. So when we are studying about Sophie-Germain prime, okay, so we know Sophie-Germain prime is a prime in which 2p plus 1 is also a prime. Okay, so and we call this 2p plus 1 to be a safe prime. So we wanted to have this representation of 2p plus 1. Or we wanted to characterize this 2p plus 1, assuming that the 2p plus 1 can be prime power as well. Okay, so we call it as extended Sophie-Germain prime. Again, the question comes, this definition, we got motivated to give this definition because of the harmonic representation again. Okay, so once you know the representation of 1 by P, we can go and represent 1 by 2p plus 1 as well. So what we say is we say an extension of Sophie-Germain prime as a prime is said to be extended Sophie-Germain prime if 2p plus 1 is prime or prime power. That means 2p plus 1 is allowed to have a prime power things. That means it can be q power n, okay, for some prime. The advantage of this, another advantage for thing is that you can also think of infinitude of extended Sophie-Germain prime, which is expected to be less complex compared to the infinitude of Sophie-Germain primes. So this may be an intermediate problem to solve before solving the infinitude of Sophie-Germain prime. Okay. So with this assumption, with this extension of Sophie-Germain prime, we observed a certain result. The result is this following. So we found a necessary sufficient condition for 2 to be a primitive root of 2p plus 1. So here, let P be any odd prime such that 2p plus 1 is prime or prime power. We characterize saying that 2 is a primitive root of 2p plus 1 if and only if P is congruent to 1 mod 4. Okay, so this is the result. This is again a joint work with Tanga and 2 of my PhD students, Mageshwari and Sashwati. And we were also able to, so as I said in the beginning that, not only 2 being a primitive root of, any harmonic, any P or any Q or whatever, any K is not enough. We also need to connect it with the permutation so that the other multiples of the harmonic can be represented. Okay, so for example, Q by K or anything by K. Okay, the multiples of harmonics can also be represented easily only by a cyclic permutation. Therefore, we also have a connection that we observed that if you take, we take the same definition of Alcyon and Gottfeld, and we observe that if you take a P rather than N, we take a prime here. We observe that, if P factorial is transitive, then 2P plus 1 is prime and P is common to 1 mod 4. This is a corollary which comes out of this theorem and the Alcyon-Gottfeld theorem that I showed, which was published in 1969. So just connecting this theorem and this, we get this corollary. Therefore, this is one step close to representation of other multiples of. Okay. And I'll show a little later. I'll show some more tables to say that the infinitude of extended Sophie-Germain prime is less complex than I mean more easy to attack than infinitude of Sophie-Germain prime. And we also have proved that another interesting things that we found is when you are thinking of 2p plus 1 to be q power k for some prime q, we can easily see that it has to be a power of 3. So the idea is coming from here. So suppose 2p plus 1 is q power k, then 2p is q power k minus 1, and then you factorize it. And then by fundamental theorem of arithmetic, you have unique factorization. This q minus 1 has to be 2 because q is, q is some prime here. Therefore, this is the even number. Therefore, the q, you have 2 times of p. Therefore, q minus 1 is 2, and hence you get q to be 3. For when you assume 2p plus 1 to be a prime power for k greater than or equal to 2, then 2p plus 1 has to be a power of 3. Not only power of 3, the power also has to be a prime power. That also again comes from the same analysis here, that if you take 2p plus, suppose not, if you take let's say L1 and L2, q to the power L1, L2 minus 1, then you can easily see that there is a factor of that which is going to divide this. Therefore, it also has to be a prime, and again we observe that it's p is common to 1 mod 4. Okay, and with this, the advantage of all this estimate is the following, that so there is a Gauss theorem that if a is the primitive root of p and p square, then a is the primitive root of p power l for all. So we have a lemma which is a special case but a more stronger than the Gauss theorem. Take a equal to 2 and p is 3. Okay, so we have proved that from this we have proved that 2 is a primitive root of 3 power k for all k. Okay, that is the thing. So in this perspective, in computer science background, the harmonics of 1 by 3 can be taken care easily. We have a priori information about the representation of that, and therefore we don't have to worry about scalability here. Okay, with this, okay, I have some time. Yeah. Sorry for that. Okay, so with this we get into what we propose by saying that generalization of Sophie-Germain prime. Okay, so we all know for Sophie-Germain prime we say a safe prime is 2p plus 1. So we generalize the safe prime. So we see 2 as 3 minus 1. So because 2 can be written as 3 minus 1, therefore you replace 3 minus 1 by q minus 1. And we say that let q be any prime, and then a prime p is to be a generalized Sophie-Germain prime if q minus 1 into p plus 1 is prime. Okay, we just propose this. If time permits, I'll tell you why we wanted this. Again, the reason is because of the representation of harmonic anyway. And so we have some results, connecting this. Okay, so therefore, so far we have seen only 2p plus 1 no, so far. Okay, therefore you can think of at least immediately, you can think of q being 3, q being 5, and q being 11 and all that, 7, 11 and all that. You can think of that. So that's what we are listing it here. So this is a generalized Sophie-Germain prime. Okay, and generalized and also extension of Sophie-Germain prime. So what we are doing here is, suppose if you take, as I said sometime back, in this theorem we said that q is 3. So this analysis will work for if you generalize it to q here. So if you take q minus 1 times of p, if you take any other L minus 1 times of p plus 1, then you will also see that ultimately it will be a power of L here. Okay, so so we are using q equal to 3, q equal to 5, q equal to 7, and q equal to 11 here, and we are listing just the primes of the form 3 power k minus 1 by 2, 5 power k minus 1 by 4, because 5 minus 1 is 4, and this is 7 minus 1 and 11 minus 1. Okay, so you can see easily that the extended Sophie-Germain primes are more here. We are just the certain texts are gray in color and certain numbers are dark. They are primes. Okay, so prime numbers are listed here. Therefore, you can see that there are more primes of this form. As I said sometime back, that extended Sophie-Germain prime will be, infinitude. Arguing the infinitude of extended Sophie-Germain prime may be less complex compared to arguing the infinitude of Sophie-Germain prime. So that's what the main intention of this computing. Yeah, so with this definition, so we also studied 4p plus 1 and to see whether we can find a necessary sufficient condition for 2 to be a primitive root. So we could find only a sufficient condition here, that if p is any prime such that 4p plus 1 is prime or prime power, then you can say that 2 is a primitive root of 4p plus 1 here. Okay, and we also have connection with the transitive permutation here. So in fact, transitive permutation will not be of any help because we have to look at cyclic permutations. We are more interested in cyclic permutations, cyclic permutations. Therefore, we have to extend this. We have to extend this concept of transitive to permutations with more orbits. Still, here also we have another special case of Gauss theorem, a stronger result of special case of Gauss theorem. We end up proving that 2 is a primitive root of 5 power k. Therefore, as I said some time back, I have a binary representation periodicity is phi of p power k. I have an a priori information about that of all the harmonics of 1 by 5 power k. Fine. So we also, as I said, we also have to extend this not just sticking to one orbits. We also wanted to have cyclic permutations. Towards that we have taken one step. Okay, this is one result that we have got here. So what we characterize here in this lemma is interesting here, that n factorial has 2 orbits. Then your extended Sophie-Germain prime, which is 2n plus 1. 2n plus 1 has to be p or p square. So it cannot be p cube and all that. Okay, and the theorem that we have obtained here is that if n is any natural number such that n factorial has 2 orbits, then 2 is a primitive root of 2n plus 1 if and only if 2n plus 1 has to be p square. Therefore, it cannot be for Sophie-Germain prime. It has to be for p square alone, where p is not prime. So this is a joint work with my PhD students, Mageshwari and Sashwati. I think I can skip this. Yeah. So the aim here is that, as I said, this is one step towards representing the other harmonics, especially the multiples of the 1 by p. Okay. So still some more work has to be done. We are not completely characterized it. So we need to do a lot more work on these directions. So we also have observed, okay, so this is the more abstract result for generalized Sophie-Germain prime. Okay. And before that, I'll just talk about for 17, for q equal to 17, if p is a prime such that 16p plus 1 is also prime. So we are taking a special case of a generalized Sophie-Germain prime. Then we observed that 3 is the least primitive root of 16p plus 1. Okay, so this is again a joint work with Mageshwari and Sashwati. So therefore, these primes are going to create, these primes are going to create problems for us, when we are talking about when you are going to compute the harmonic series, okay, in the computation perspective. But this is the observation. And then we also observed that if for any q greater than 1 be a Fermat prime and p be a generalized Sophie-Germain prime. So this is generalization of this. That is q minus 1 times of p plus 1 is prime. And we found that if 3 power q minus 1 is less than the safe prime, okay, generalized safe prime, then 3 is a primitive root of this. Okay, so again, now we are getting more primes with the 3 as a primitive. Yeah. So these are the main results I wanted to present today. So this is the proof that so when you have q minus 1 times of p plus 1, when you want to characterize it, it can easily see that you have to again use the same factorization, and then it follows from that p will either divide r minus 1 or r minus 1 has to be q minus 1. Okay, that's the thing. So it will be power of it will be a power of q. That is the thing that we wanted to conclude here. Okay, and k also has to be a prime power. So what we are currently working on is we are also working on characterizing the least primitive roots of p. Okay, in some sense we are looking at some so in omega notation we are looking at least primitive root thing, and we are also interested in talking about the prime primitive roots. So the prime primitive roots are going to help us in improving some results in improving some results in generalized Sophie-Germain prime. Okay, I think I don't have the slide here. So we have some observation here where the prime primitive roots are going to help us to prove certain results. So we generalized it to study on least prime primitive roots for any cyclic group n. And as I said, we also have to connect primitive roots and cycles. Okay, so it's not just going beyond transitive permutations. Another interesting thing that we are also doing is I think this is q minus 1. There's a typo here. We are also connecting. We are also trying to connect. We are trying to connect the extended Sophie-Germain prime permutations and 2 being a primitive roots. Okay, these are the things. So as I said, we are more interested in 2 as a primitive root of 2 as a primitive root of the cyclic group. So I have some time, right? Okay. I'll just show you where they are computationally helpful. Sorry, is there a question? Okay, so I'll just give you an application in big data where this primitive root concepts are very useful. Okay, so I will just show you this. Okay, so these are the functions. These are the functions which are approximated using Fourier series, and these functions are expected to have a small domain in which the function is exponentially changing. So engineers call it as a shock. Okay, this kind of functions are used for weather prediction. Okay, and when they wanted to represent, when they want to use the Fourier series, ultimately they're storing the rational numbers and Fourier form of and the coefficients are rational numbers here. When they are storing it, they observed that there are some oscillations occurring. These oscillations are not natural. This is the right solution, and this is the oscillation happened because of the meshing error. So it's because of truncation error, and there is something called Gibbs phenomenon that we know that they were suspecting that it's because of the Gibbs phenomenon that any truncation of any infinite series to finite series will lead to oscillation in such problems. That is what is the Gibbs thing. And then what engineers normally do is they kind of go for doing some kind of a shock observing mechanism, or they call it as filters, and they try to generate a solution of this kind, which is something close to this. So what we have observed is that it is because of the truncation of the infinite series of the harmonics, and we propose that the truncation has to happen using the primitive root concept there. Okay, so in that way, as I showed in some point of time that there are more than 40% of the primes have 2 as a primitive root. Therefore, is it possible to capture the harmonics by using this 37% of the harmonics to represent the harmonic series? Answer is no, because it is much slower than log of log, whereas harmonic series is asymptotic to log n. So that is a challenge that they have. Okay, and these oscillations are created because of because of the harmonics which are truncated, the infinite series are truncated without primitive root information there. So we are working on this problem. We have done some computation here, and when we implemented this concept of primitive root there, we are getting better results than what we have got. Okay, so this is one application that I thought to share here. Okay, I stop here. Is there any questions? So, okay, I think there are some references. I'll just show my references and complete. And okay, so the question here is still it's an open problem here, that how to do truncation without instability here, and this is a model that I showed you. Is a model which is used for atmospheric weather predictions. Okay, so I work with someone called Professor Vasudev Murthy from TIFR camp. He's no more now. He died because of COVID, and also work with Janaki Raman, who takes care of weather prediction in CDAC. Okay, so I learned this problem from them, and some of the references. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ramesh. Thank you very much for such an engaging talk. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? So there is a question in the chat box. Can you please look into it?
Yeah, 1 second. It might be a little irrelevant question, but still curious. There is a relation between class number of imaginary fields and the digits of acidic representation of some primitive roots, model P. Should there be any important for solving? So the question is, should that be anyhow important for solving, attacking these problems? So I don't know. There may be some connections, I don't know. So the digits of 1 acidic expansion of 1 by p for some primitive root 1 over p modulo p. Okay. Yeah, sounds like they're relevant, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, it looks we don't have any more questions. So thank you very much, Professor Ramesh, for such a nice talk.